Hello, my name's Nigel Toft and I'm very happy to be here appearing on Presenter Led this afternoon. And we're in St. Katherine Dock, which is the block next to the Tower of London. We have the Tower of London just to the west of this dock. Tower Bridge runs across the river and St. Katherine Dock is just to the east of Tower Bridge, so on the other side of the road from the Tower of London. And I've lived here now for about well over 25 years, and I find it a very pleasant place to live. The dock is comprised of three basins. The most westerly basin next to the tower is mainly offices, office blocks and so on. And then the middle basin has got some rather expensive residential houses and some very nice cafes. And here we are at the eastern dock, which is all residential and blocks of flats, and I live in one of those flats over there. And then just to the south of there we have a series of former cottages of some of the people who worked in this dock, and they've now been converted into small houses, and I rather suspect that the previous occupants would not be able to afford to buy one now because they're jolly expensive now. These little houses here with their lovely view of the boats are really very expensive. But it's an interesting place to live. It's particularly nice in the summer where one has lots of rather beautiful and smart yachts and some very, very good cafes, which I enjoy. I'm on my way to go to one now. And the interesting thing is all these apartments here were built about 15, 20 years ago, I suspect. These apartments just over 20 years ago. And they all vary in size. The very top ones are very large indeed. The penthouse apartments are very large indeed, with terraces and 3 floors, and no doubt cost several £1 million. But the only old historic former warehouse left is Ivory House, which we can't see from here. It's just around the corner there. There's we're at the back of a pub called Dickens Inn, but that was built about 40, 50 years ago when the dock was first redeveloped. The Dickens Inn, although it looks very old, is in fact a relatively new building. But the Ivory House, which is just around the corner, that is an 18th century building. And it is the only old warehouse that was not demolished. And it's called the Ivory House because it used to be a warehouse for ivory, which is obviously a valuable commodity. And it also housed in the warehouse other valuable commodities which had been brought up the river to the Pool of London, to the River Thames, which is just yards away from here. And the reason they put valuable commodities in Ivory House is because the Tower of London, as I say, is just one block over. There were soldiers in the Tower of London. There was a garrison in the Tower of London. They could also protect this dock with its valuable commodities. That is no longer a warehouse. That is not also now a block of rather expensive flats. But so this is partly office buildings to the west of here and residential here in the east. And I can say it's a very, very pleasant place to live. I'm happy to live here. Thank you.